Welcome back. So now that we actually have our application ready here, let's do an ng-serve just to see what we actually have here. Let's see it running again. We already did this, but I just want to show you something again. And let's actually go into the app component here, the app folder, our folder on the source here called app. And there we have some different files. The app module is, I'll just get back to that in a second. That's kind of the overall module for our entire application right now. We have an app component that's going to be combined with all these files are actually combined, these four files. The app CSS, the app HTML, and the app spec.ts and the app component. They are working together as one. Let me try and look at what I mean here. It's up and running now, so let's see if it actually works. It says app work here, app works. Let's just try and change this into welcome or hello world. Let's do a hello world, that makes sense. If I go into one of these files, the app CSS is for styling my beautiful app component, right? The app HTML is actually where I write the information I want to show inside my app component. So let's just change it here into being hello world, like this. I'll save this, I'll go back, and now you'll notice automatically it refreshes the browser for me, and then it shows hello world. Okay, so that's in the HTML file. I can actually start changing stuff here. Let me just say world 22, and again it refreshed the browser automatically. I didn't press refresh. So we're up and running here, and if we notice what it actually said before, it actually said something with title in here. That's because when we do the compile I just showed you, we actually replace this with the information inside the TS file that belongs to the component. So what is that all about? Let me try and show you that. When we're making a component, like in our case where it's the app component right now, we have 4 different files to take care of in our case, and one of them down here is going to be a test file. So let's just ignore that for now. We'll look into that later, but that's one of the files. The other 3 files are working together as one. The TS file, he knows what CS file to talk to, what HTML file to work with, and combining those two into a component, right? The HTML file, he can communicate with the TS file like this. So he can talk back and forth here to get information back and forth between the TS file and the HTML file in compile time. The CS file, of course, the HTML file can grab information from the CSS file so he can show something differently. That's kind of how these guys work. And again, this guy is just for tests, so he will kind of grab the file to make sure that everything works as we expected. That's how an Angular component is built. So let's have a look at those files again. So we have the CSS file here, the HTML file, the spec file, and the TS file, working together, all of them. To pass data into the HTML file from the TS file, we can use these curly brackets right here. So when I do curly brackets like this, curly bracket to curly bracket, curly bracket, curly bracket, I'll get some information from the TS file. That's just something you have to know about TypeScript and Angular. That's just a coding, a way to code, right? That's a standard. When you write curly brackets twice in both ends, you're looking for an attribute or property inside the TS file. So there should be a title property inside the TS file. Let's try and open the app component. And there we go. Here we have the component. This is again specific for Angular. In the TS file, we have something called a component. Let's go back to the image. So this is the component, right? All of this. And this is the file defining the component right here, the TS file. Okay, so now we have the component, and the component has some information like the template URL, the style URL, right? So these two are actually pointing to the 2 other files, like I said. This is how they know about each other. So this guy knows about this guy, and he knows about this guy. Now they know about each other. The last thing is I actually create a class in here. We'll get into this soon, and that has a title available that just said add works. So what if we wanted to say hello world here instead? We could actually do it in here, hello world. And when I save this, this information will be sent into the HTML file because I have the syntax right here, right? And that will then be shown inside the HTML. We'll work more with this, but now you kind of know how the components work together and how the files work together. See you next time.